I do want to. How about let's try it now? Pro Streamer Strats. Welcome to United Astronomy Clubs of New Jersey. Now that you can actually hear me, uh, we are in person in Jenny Jump State Forest in Hope, New Jersey. Uh, it is raining outside, and so we switched to having the presentation indoors tonight instead of outdoors because it is far too wet and I might melt. That being said, while I'm going to give people a chance to park safely and wander their way inside and find a seat, I do want to welcome not only everyone here, but also who are joining us online because that's right, we do live stream these to both Twitch and YouTube. So if it's ever a rainy Saturday night at 8 p.m. and you're like, I don't want to drive because driving in the rain is less than ideal, do feel free to join us on Twitch or YouTube and say hi in chat. In addition, do check us out on our website, uacnj.org. It's where you're going to find a list of all our upcoming talks, as well as information on things like our member clubs. That's right, we are a club made up of other clubs, and one of the easiest ways to get into astronomy is to join and find your local club. They're going to have all sorts of fun resources, other outreach events separate from us uh, that are all much easier to get to sometimes because I know we have a wide array of viewers, some who join us online from different states and countries, even. So do Google your local club. In addition, you can also find us on our social media pages, our Facebook, our Instagram. We have a Discord server. All of these are great places to not only ask questions, but also share your love of space and astronomy and science. Do feel free to tag us. Do feel free to reach out and ask those questions and follow us there. All right. So, since I'm going to encourage people who might want to see the talk to come sit down, we are going to be starting the talk now. All right. So, couple safety things before we get started. If you need to use the restroom, that is the porta potty outside. It is big, it is blue, it is illuminated by red for ease of finding in the dark. When we go to leave, we are using our headlights because we enjoy not being run over and playing dangerous games of Frogger in the state park. That being said, any flashlights we use to wander around, please keep those lights pointed toward the ground. We do have a number of volunteers. Unfortunately, we won't be opening up the telescopes to view the sky as, like I said before, it is quite rainy and that would potentially damage the telescopes. That being said, we might open the door to one later so you can go in and actually see one of our telescope setups. It depends on what volunteers have ready and which ones have access to what. I don't know who's outside right now. All right. You're not here to listen to me blabber on for forever. You're actually here to listen to our talk tonight, given by Paul Fisher. Paul has a Bachelor in Engineering and Chemical Engineering from Stevens Institute of Technology and has worked in the environmental and chemical industries. Though always interested in space objects, apparently if I get too close to that, I get static. Paul's official start in astronomy was one night several years ago, lying on his roof, which is much higher up than I would like to be, while freezing my butt off with a pair of binoculars. He caught a brief, clear glimpse of the Galilean moons of Jupiter, and since then has been hooked. He's now an active member of the Northwest Jersey Amateur Astronomers and volunteers frequently here at United Astronomy Clubs of New Jersey. And still, with all of the free time he doesn't have because we voluntold him to do many things, he still finds time to go outside at night and be in awkward positions in the freezing cold or oppressive heat and to see neat stuff in the night sky. And with that, here's Paul.
Hi, everyone. Let me switch here quickly from our introductory slide. And I am Paul, and today's talk is called Nope, Debunking 5 Common Conspiracy Theories. These, of course, are related to all related to astronomy. So let me get that up there, and there we go. That's the title slide. Again, I'm Paul, and I'm a member of NWJAA. Also, I'm an observer here at UACNJ. All right, so why did I decide to take on these conspiracy theories and debunk them? Spend time debunking them. And this is a smaller space, so I'm just going to sit down rather than have a lecturer presence, and maybe we can just have a more intimate chat. So why did I decide to put this presentation together? Well, first of all, I didn't expect to win any arguments. Sometimes arguments with a conspiracy theorist are not exactly fruitful, so why even take on the task? I wanted to elevate my own game. Why do I believe it? You know, I believed it, but why do I believe it? And so having that background gives you a little bit more faith and confidence in your own beliefs, and even gives you maybe reason, a little bit reasons more grounded in science on why these things, why you believe maybe not the conspiracy theories, but the science behind the actualities. And also staying humble. You got to check yourself. Even if you're pretty darn sure and science hasn't let you down on many things, you still got to check yourself, check to make sure that your thoughts are correct. You could have gotten something wrong, and you gotta realize that you're always capable of having a not a mistake, but an error in judgment, and so you got to recognize that reality. Furthermore, these two people here, Astro Alexandra and Simon Dan, I am fans of their YouTube series, web series of videos, and they do a good bit more of debunking than I do. They do it as science communicators professionally, and Astro Alexandra falls more on the science communication, science news side of things, and Simon Dan does take the fight to the conspiracy theorists. He's more interested in debunking directly some of the conspiracy theories. So which conspiracy theories shall we take on tonight? Well, first, astrology, the belief in astrology. Second, that the moon landing was a hoax. A third, that piloting skills and asteroid belts as portrayed in the movies is anything like reality. Fourth is that the Milky Way is fake. That specifically images we see of the Milky Way is fake. Not exactly. And then finally, the flat Earth. That's the big one. The flat Earth theory. All right, so let's start with a little bit of astrology. Astrology, right? There are some people who, believe in that the stars and the sun and the moon and the planets can affect you. Uh, your day-to-day life on things unrelated to how cool they look in the sky and what science and data we can get back from them, right? So people think that that they affect us directly. What's astrology's basic premise? Astrology uses a set of rules about the relative positions and movements of heavenly bodies to generate predictions and explanations for events on Earth and human personality traits. So that's basically what I said, put what much more eloquently and more descriptively from the Berkeley University of California. So that's a great definition. What are the 12 signs of the zodiac? If you don't know these, then I don't know anyone who doesn't know those, but those are the 12 signs of the zodiac. You might have one that you consider yours because you happen to be born in the astrological time of those signs. Now, just so you know, that actually does have a real definition. That is when the sun is in that constellation. So it's not when it's up during the night, it's when the sun is in that constellation. So it's on the other side of the planet from being able to see it. Yeah, unfortunately, nope. Astrology does not have that capability of affecting you. Is astrology a science? Well, let's go back to Berkeley, University of California, and get another definition. Well, what is science? Science have these factors. It focuses on the natural world. It aims to explain the natural world. It uses testable ideas. It relies on evidence. It involves the scientific community. It leads to ongoing research, and researchers behave scientifically. So if you use that definition, which sounds like a pretty good definition, astrology starts off good. It does focus on the natural world. It does aim to explain the natural world, but then it falls short. Okay. Does it use testable ideas? No. Does it rely on evidence? No. Does it involve the scientific community? No. Does it lead to ongoing research? No. And do researchers behave scientifically? No. The reason maybe it started off well and then fell short is that astrology and astronomy maybe at one time were coexisted as one entity. They were founded in the same way, yet some chose to start measuring and start collecting data, etc., and some just chose to stick with beliefs, and so the two parted ways. The two areas of thought. I need a volunteer for this one. Who would like to volunteer? All right. Could you hold this, sir? Thank you. Just have a seat. And you're going to hold it for a little bit, and then I'm going to ask you your opinion later. All right, so let's go into the science of some of the science of why astrology, it doesn't really affect us, doesn't meet these criteria. All right, 4 forces to rule them all. It's not quite the One Ring, but it's still in the universe. We have 4 forces, and we only have 4 forces. Only 4 forces. These forces are the strong force, the electromagnetic force, the weak force, the gravitation. Now we can draw as you get into the details, you can start separating this and that and everything, but classically, there's still only four forces. We have dark energy and dark matter, which may lead to new science related to four, but maybe not too. So not necessarily anything conclusive there yet. So we can only say that we have four forces at this point. Force must-haves. All right, so here are the four forces: the strong electromagnetic, weak, and gravitation. Here's their best theories currently. So we actually have theories describing these forces mathematically. They are quantum chromodynamics, quantum electrodynamics, electroweak theory, general relativity. They have mediators. They have particles in particle physics that mediate the force between objects undergoing those forces. Gluons, photons, W and Z bosons, and gravitons. And here's the ranges, which is very interesting, right? Look at those ranges. Look at the tiny, tiny size of the ranges in these two forces, and then the theoretical limits on these two forces. They act particles that are extremely close together, or they can act a lot more weakly on forces that are on objects that are very far apart. If we take those forces and we apply them to, say, an adult male of around 220 pounds, and we use an estimation method. I am not a physicist. I cannot do any math or have any background really in those theories. I do have a more classical approach as an engineer. And for this calculation, back of envelope calculation, it's more than sufficient. And so we can calculate that, or first of all, by inspection, we know that that the strong force and the weak force, we're not, if we are looking at, say, Jupiter and how Jupiter affects us on the planet right now, we are not in the 10 to minus 18th meter range. We are in the closer to infinite, or closer to mathematically infinite range. What type of forces would we possibly see? It's debatable whether planets carry a net charge or not. It's debatable. However, if one were to, some have calculated Earth's charge as compared to the sun. So a difference in charge is still a charge, even if even if you define one as zero, right? So it's still a difference is a charge. So there is a difference in those charges, and someone did actually the mathematics on this one, and it's very close to zero, a lot closer than even these tiny numbers. So we're going to put 0 in that column. The gravity of Jupiter, using Newton's law of gravity, F equals G big M little m over r squared. And you just substitute in the relative values of, say, Jupiter compared to a 220-pound man. Jupiter wins that fight, of course, and this is approximate force that one would feel from Jupiter's gravitational influence, knowing Jupiter's, say, average distance from the Earth. And here comes our piece of paper. Okay, so this is 3 zeros small. This number is 3 zeros smaller than this number. It's 1,000th. All right. And, sir, I want you to give me your official opinion. Does holding that uh, piece of paper uh, at all affect your desire to spend money irresponsibly or more responsibly, or affect any romantic decisions that you may have? So you're not really feeling an effect, and the effect from Jupiter is 1/1000th of what you are experiencing now. So the net effect is that Jupiter is just not really having an effect on you at all right now. It's there mathematically, okay? It's calculable. However, it's just nothing in our day-to-day life. All right, and a parting shot on astrology here is that axial precession is a thing. Ophiuchus is the 13th zodiac sign currently in modern times. 22,000 years, I believe, is the cycle for precession. And of course, at sometimes there are 22 zodiac signs, but right now there would actually, if astrology was anything like a science, they might acknowledge the fact that we should have a 13th zodiac sign currently. So astrology, nope. All right, another favorite conspiracy theory of some is the moon landing was a hoax. And oftentimes you will see these two pictures as evidence that the landing was a hoax, that it was some sort of film put together by people in NASA or the government trying to fool you that we made it to the moon. Yeah, no, that's untrue. Uh, Here are the Apollo missions. These are the missions where we landed human beings on the moon. There is a record of every one of these missions. Apollo 1 was actually never a mission, Apollo mission. It was a mission. However, it never went to the moon, unfortunately. And so you have to acknowledge the fact that this is honorary. The astronauts in this mission, while they were testing the capsule and electronics on or doing testing in the capsule, there was unfortunately a fire. All three astronauts ended up dying, and after they died, they honorarily included it in the Apollo missions. These other missions, however, all went to our nearest neighbor and actually landed down. Apollo 7th being very famous, as their first mission into space for the Apollo mission, but then Apollo 11 being the big one. That's one small step for mankind. And that is an actual quote. That quote actually went out over the airs. It was actual communication. Just so you know, the Apollo 8 mission, failure is not an option. That quote was actually written for the movies, is not a real quote. It didn't happen in the mission. So a little bit mixed bag in our history, common knowledge. Failure is not an option, is not a real quote, but that's one small step, is a real one. The missions started relatively short and quick, and as you can see by the dates and all that type of stuff, they got longer and more complicated, bringing a rover and staying longer on the surface of the moon. All right, so who's been up there? I mean, it's great that we claim to do it, but just imagine that. Look at who's been up there: the Soviet Union, China. Uh, you know, these these governments not only are uh, also members of the 25,000 250 uh, yeah 250,000 mile club, but there also are uh, a lot of them are our rivals. They're still competitive with us in politically and economically. Why would they corroborate the ability to go up there? And even, do you hear them ever saying that, officially from their governments? I mean, individuals might, but does their governments ever deny the fact that we went to the moon? They don't. They don't have that opinion. Now, why would they do that if it isn't true? It would be hard for them to justify that. Uh, the United States has an asterisk by their first mission up there, because to the moon, because we're the only people that so far, only government that has put people on the moon. People. That isn't to say that others haven't landed on the moon. They have. Uh, who has orbited or has satellites around the moon? The 20th century was mostly the Soviet Union and the United States. Japan had one in the 90s. However, here in the 21st century, many countries have completed successful missions to the moon at this point. So China's been busy recently. It's had landings, a very famous one in 2019 where they landed on we call it the dark side, but it's really the side facing away from the Earth. Also in 2020 and recently in 2024. So China's been busy up there. And of course, most famously, we did a flyby in 2011, but we've had some very recent success. Who is this person here? That's Christina Cook. She holds that from the Artemis 2 mission, and she holds, because of that mission, now two very important, I think more than two, but let's call the two very important ones out. That she has been the woman who has spent the longest time in space, 328 days, and the woman who has been the furthest from the Earth, 252 thousand and change miles away from Earth. So we're still in there. Excellent. All right. To put further holes into it, there is photographic evidence. You can't see these sites from the Earth. Light has limitations. Our ability to resolve light with real objects depends on the physics of the wave of light and things like that. So the further you're away, the more difficult it becomes to see objects. And from Earth-bound telescopes, it's just impossible to see this level of detail on the moon. However, as I said before, many countries have successful missions, and this is from an Indian satellite orbiting the moon. Have pictures of the actual landing sites the United States has made on the moon. So that's actual photography. Here's another reason that's a little tongue-in-cheek. Buzz Aldrin just might knock you out if you were to question the moon landings. Famously, on September 9th, 2002, Buzz Aldrin, 72 years old, to give you an idea how hardcore this gentleman is, punched Bart Sibrel in the jaw during a confrontation Sibrel set up outside the Lux Hotel. Sibrel tried to press assault charges, but the court threw out the case, calling Sibrel the instigator because he accused Buzz Aldrin of, not famously being one of the first people on the moon. And just come on, what an accomplishment and what an insult to somebody who is an icon. Not to mention that we have searchable, through Freedom of Information Act, searchable documents, warehouses. I mean, at this point, engineering was done on paper, and so we have warehouses full of engineering And when we talk about warehouses full, these types of documents themselves took hundreds and thousands of man hours each to put together. So the level of effort and the amount of money spent to create a hoax like this is just, ridiculous. The scale would be ridiculous if you aren't actually doing it. And these NASA has them online, a lot of them, but they're all through Freedom of Information Act. You could probably, if anything, is classified at this point. I don't know that anything is, but except for anything that is classified, any any of these records are searchable through Freedom of Information Act. If NASA hasn't digitized it for you and made it very convenient, you unfortunately, Freedom of Information Act doesn't require the government to ship it to you. You might have to go to the government to search it. So you might have to go to the warehouse if they would let you in. I don't know that they necessarily do, but all these documents, these are high-level documents, conceptual documents, these type of, where you see somebody next to something that is engineering, they're showing you the a scale, what the scale is like, so you can visualize the scale. But these are general layout drawings, and all these types of things are searchable. I think the last thing is that we should remain humble again, as I said, but also proud of our accomplishment that we put people on another body in the solar system. I mean, come on, why not be proud of that? And of course, another parting shot here, space lasers. One of the Apollo missions, we put a reflector on the moon that we still use to measure how far the moon is exactly from the Earth. 238,855 miles is the last number that I was able to come up with, and as an average distance, and within 1 centimeter. So we're still bouncing a laser off of that reflector. It's there. All right, so let's talk about piloting skills and asteroid belts. This is an unnamed movie because of, lawyers. So you might recognize it. It's a very famous movie. In this picture, which is a real asteroid, there is something conspicuously absent compared to portrayals of asteroid fields in fiction. This being from the famous scene where the other dude, the princess, the hairy dude, and the comic relief robots flying through an asteroid field were dodging asteroids left and right. Nope, that's not true. One reason I include this conspiracy theory is because it gives an idea why things sometimes become conspiracy theories. The scale of things in space and the scale of the entirety of the universe is just unfathomable. Another word I'm not going to get right. Is just you cannot fathom that just sitting down thinking about it. You have to do math in order to fully appreciate it, and so you can't just come up with it just thinking real hard in your brain. You got to use a little bit of a back envelope calculation at least. Our asteroid belt. The four largest asteroids are Ceres, Vesta, Pallas, and Hygiea, and I'm sure I messed up at least two of those names. The total mass of the asteroid belt is less than the mass of our moon. So that if you figure that the asteroid belt is in between Mars and Jupiter and is spread across that space, then something the mass of our moon spread across that space is not going to equal a lot of stuff in that space. The Trojan asteroids are different. They precede and follow Jupiter in its orbit, and near-Earth asteroids intersect Earth's orbit. The asteroid belt, that's about all that's considered asteroids, and asteroids have a positional element in the solar system as well as a definition of size and other things. The asteroid belt is between 2.2 and 3.2 astronomical, so about 1 astronomical unit wide. And the average distance between asteroids is, and this is why you need to do the back of envelope calculation, is 600,000 miles. All right, so bigger than twice the distance between the Earth and the Moon. And so from this diagram, again, it's hard to appreciate. So even from this diagram, which is accurate, it's hard to appreciate the fact that in between each one of these little dots is an average distance of 600,000 miles. So what would you see from one asteroid to the next? Nothing. All right? And you can fly through them easily. In fact, it's hard to hit an asteroid. That's where the technology and the awesomeness comes in, is actually hitting them, not dodging them. All right, the Milky Way is fake. So we've got this question up here. Oh, are those pictures of the Milky Way real? And I'm going to answer this in two parts. In the assertion that, if the assertion was we don't have a photograph of the entirety of the Milky Way, then I would say yes, that is true. We do not have what we would consider a photograph. Of course, the concept of images versus photograph nowadays are blurring significantly. You start getting into what's real and what's not real, and to a certain extent, and you can make an argument, and yeah, I would say yes, that's true, but we do have images. I mean, what's this? This is what was, I think, once considered a very real image of the Milky Way. This is the current best image from, it's the European Space Agency's Gaia mission, and this is the current best image we have of the Milky Way. And it is real. But what is it? Why is it not considered what we would classically think of as a photograph? Well, what's this? All right, this is a Mercator projection, and I can't, that appears to be Italian from here. I can't, Novea et, no, it's Latin. Novea et acu orbis terrea descriptio. This is from 1596. And I want you to see here, 1596, we were not in space yet. Yet Africa, South America, North America, Europe, and Asia are all recognizable on this image. We did not see this from space yet. So what is this? This is a map, just as these two are maps, and are a realistic image or map of our surroundings. So you don't need to take a photograph to have realism. So no, not a photograph in the traditional sense, but a real image. Real data, and it's illustrative in its detail, and it's taken from similar detail. Many the details are not only imaged from the Earth, but are their 3D representation are taken from similar galaxies. It's a useful guide to understand our galaxy. So nope. And there are still mysteries, right? There are still things that we don't know what the other side of it. I mean, we don't know what the other side of many of those things looks like. And there are things in the galaxy hidden because there are objects in front of it. So it's not perfect, but it is a realistic image. All right, the big one, the flat Earth theory. Here's the flat Earth theory. The Earth, oops. Where did I go? All right, there we go. All right. Okay, so here's the flat Earth, a disk with an atmosphere above it, and the sun and the moon travel around this disk, and that is the reality we see. Yeah. Yeah, the other reason I included this image is not only is it a representation of the flat Earth theory, but if anyone, I'm old enough to still enjoy music from the 70s, and so this reminds me very much of a 70s album cover or two. So it's very, I think it's very cool from that aspect also. But nope, the flat Earth theory is not not a thing. We've actually known that the Earth is a sphere, or is, that is the way we think, sphere-ish, for a long, long time. Pythagoras, one of the original proposers, a spherical Earth. Aristotle, who lived from 384 to 322 BCE. Remember, we're counting back down to 0, so you can consider those kind of negative numbers, which is why they're going backwards. Agreed. He was the first one to put some physical evidence associated to that theory. Eratosthenes of Cyrene made measurements of the angle of the shadows at the summer solstice in Syene and Alexandria. He employed bematists, which were measured walkers. In order to understand and draw the geometry or the trigonometry of what the length of these shadows differing in those two locations meant, you would have to know the distance accurately between those two places to see where they are located on a sphere. And he did that by employing these measured walkers. So it was obviously a pretty significant effort for someone to walk between those two cities, or some others to walk between, and they were measured walkers, so they were able to keep a a set cadence distance between their steps, and they did a good must have gotten it pretty darn close to right, because his results between 24,000 and 29,000 miles agrees well with the modern measurement of Earth's circumference, which is 24,900 miles. So they, wow, for smart people, smart physicists, smart people way back in the day. But we've known this, had it written down, and people have been using this for thousands of years. So we've known this for thousands of years. Christopher Columbus knew that the Earth was a sphere. So when he went off and said, everyone who thinks, there's that we can't get to the other side of the Earth by going this way as well as this way, he already knew. And actually, He owned copies of those books from the ancient Greeks, which discussed the theories and later attempts at measuring Earth's circumference. Most learned people at Christopher Columbus' time believed the Earth was a sphere, and indeed for most of human history after Pythagoras. It has been the prevailing theory for a long, long time. A modern resurgence of flat earth thinking didn't come back until the 19th century. And there is a philosophy called conflict, the conflict thesis, where religion and science necessarily need to be at odds with each other. Not only are they sometimes at odds with each other, they necessarily need to be. Is called the conflict thesis, and it rose to prominence in the 19th century. And I'm not saying that flat earth theorists are necessarily related to religious thinking nowadays, but there is an idea that science needs to be taken down a peg or two since the 19th century and has become popular since then. Here, let's talk about some large-scale engineering. Again, to get you an idea of that, I included the asteroid plot for some realization of the scale of things. Here's another realization of the scale of things. This is from a well-known debunker in the UK. A good slide. This is the Humber Bridge in their part of the world. These two towers from the suspension bridge are both plumb. And plumb means that they are vertically aligned to the center of the Earth, meaning that they are radial to the center of the Earth. Which means that on a sphere, the bottom, closer to the center of the Earth, should be closer than the top because they are slightly angled away from each other towards the center of the Earth. All right, so this bridge is 1.38 miles long. The towers are 0.876 miles apart. So that being true, just so you get an idea of scale, how much further do you think the top of these towers are from the bottom? 0.36, no, excuse me, 36 millimeters apart, further apart on the top to the bottom. That's why we can't see it with the naked eye nor appreciate it with the naked eye. Because the scale is so big, our eyes, our brains just, you can't see looking at that photograph that the top is further away than the bottom. It just, our eye does not catch it. Incapable of catching it. Here's Lake Pontchartrain. These are towers, electric towers across the lake, and this is a vanishing point over here. If one were to, in art, I don't know whether everyone has done it, but I certainly drew vanishing points on a piece of artwork I was doing or learning to do in art class, and they were all straight lines. Is this line straight? Nope, it is not. It's curved there at the end here, right? So here's the vanishing point if we lived on a flat Earth situation, where that vanishing point would be straight lines. And here's what we're getting in the pictures. Curved Earth. Also, the concept of a great circle. All right, that circle is great. I don't know what this tiger's name. Let's just call him Anthony. So great circles The equator is the most well-known great circle. Anything that travels along the full diameter of the Earth is a great circle. It doesn't matter which direction it's going. It can travel through the poles. It can travel any old direction, any old angle, and it would be a great circle as long as it follows that full circumference of the Earth. And it is the shortest distance on a sphere. It's very important to say that between any 2 points on Earth. It's the equivalent to a straight line on a flat piece of paper. Let me come back to that particular slide. It's a little bit out of order, but here's the concept. If one were to use one of the projections to plot a course, a longer navigational course on the Earth, and were to fly that straight line or sail from one coast to the other on that straight line, you would be going longer than you need to because you are not traveling the shortest distance between the two lines. You would actually have to follow this curved path, which is a great circle, and that ends up being the shortest path between those 2 points. So money talks, other stuff walks. I just want you to forget about the scholars, cartographers, military pilots, captains, enthusiasts, and others who use great circles every day. Thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people who use great circles. Okay? That prove that, we're on a sphere. The airline industry alone was projected to spend over $600 billion US dollars on fuel in 2024. Just imagine a flat Earth proponent sitting down with the CFO of a major airline suggesting that she changes her airline's great circle routes to straight line routes because the Earth is flat and they would therefore save fuel. They'd be laughed escorted by security very quickly right out the door because they would laugh at you because CFOs are not proponents of a great circle flight paths because they are interested in supporting a conspiracy theory. They do it because it saves their airline tremendous amounts of money. And so the money talks and other stuff walks. So that's important. Let's go back to this. This is an update from 2024, the final experiment. A pastor ended up bringing people who believe that the Earth is a globe or a sphere, a spheroid, and flat earthers both to this very cold location, the South Pole, and witnessed for themselves the midnight sun during the summer down there in Antarctica. This is probably a picture during the summer. So Antarctica, of course, is still very cold in the summer, just not as ridiculously cold as it is in the winter. In fact, these types of camps and all that type of stuff is shut down during the winter. The conditions are so harsh there that they don't want extraneous people, unnecessary people around. And, both the flat earthers and the globists, as they're called, people who believe that the Earth is a globe, both saw the midnight sun. And, the conspiracy theory remains. The people who were there saw it for themselves, didn't believe it at first, but saw it, were now considered part of the conspiracy by the rest of the conspiracy crowd, and so the conspiracy continues. Unfortunate, right? Not to mention now we do have photographs from space showing the curvature, and that you have to be far away from the Earth to start appreciating the curvature of the Earth because it's so massive. And here's a very famous one where Voyager flipped around and took a picture of the Earth from very, very, very far away. Carl Sagan, I can't gainsay Carl Sagan, so we're just going to read what he said about it. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives, the aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species live there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. And if you can't appreciate that, first of all, if you can't appreciate why Carl Sagan's considered maybe the greatest science communicator from reading that, you're not appreciating his ability, I don't think. But also, just if you can't appreciate this picture, what it means, and your conspiracy theory trumps this, which I have a visceral reaction to, then I don't know what to say, but I think that you are not correct. So that is where I'm going to end it. Please join an astronomy club and stay safe, everyone, and enjoy your evening. You're welcome.
Hey, thank you, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
So we did have a couple questions online.
Okay.
And I'm sure you might have questions. So we're gonna do Q&A session. To start this off, Dan wants to know what your favorite conspiracy theory is.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a favorite conspiracy theory.
Do you have
favorite one to debunk, or a favorite one to
or his least favorite, more appropriate?
you know what? I think astrology is mostly harmless in the way most people believe in it. It's fun to look up your horoscope and see what imagine that it's anything like accurate, and that's what the day's going to bring you. It's fun to look that up. So if I had to say that one was a favorite, I would say astrology. It's a personal bugaboo as an amateur astronomer. People come up here and will mix up astrology and astronomy, and I like to keep it distinct. But at the same time, I think
gotta keep them separated.
I think it's mostly harmless, and if taken in the proper spirit, is fun.
All right, question.
You were nodding a lot of. Do you yourself have a background in science? Okay. A software engineer. Cool. That's excellent. And probably a lot of obviously related to computer science and technology. A lot of extreme expertise there, but also you require a lot of general science knowledge because you're maybe related to applications and things like that. You're developing things that more personal interest. Well, I'm glad you have that personal interest. Awesome, thank you.
We gotta keep the personal interest separate from the work, or the personal interests become the work.
That's sometimes true. Yes.
I feel like you know that one a little more acutely
Oh, when you're
than
starting
most.
up a new telescope for the first time, it's a lot more work than it is fun in the beginning. But it's still a labor of love.
All right. Our next online question was: have you seen any of Dave McKeegan's flat Earth debunking videos? He is so detailed and thorough, it feels silly to believe flat Earth.
Yeah, again, I think steering. I tend to wince a little bit at the direct confrontations with conspiracy theorists. Not in the sense that I don't think people should do it, but personally, I just don't see the value in doing it. Uh, there's some significant psychology going on there, and there's theories on the psychology of conspiracy theories, and I just don't believe that it's uh, time well spent. Because you're not going to convince anybody. They are going to believe in their conspiracy theories, and you can science them from here to kingdom come, and they're just not going to change their mind. It's just not going to happen. Right, and I just being a good representative of science is probably doing more good than direct confrontation.
Yeah, it also doesn't help. You have that whole thing where for every one piece of fictitious or misleading information that gets put out, you need like a million times more corrective information put out to counteract that one. And in the information age and the age of AI's making up stuff,
Well, I think the
it's
other
been getting
thing,
worse.
and you have to be so on your game. You have to be 100% right, because if you are dealing like 100%, you have to know your stuff to the minutest detail. Because if you get even one thing wrong, now you're just feeding into the conspiracy theory again. And I don't. I'm not that. I mean, I'm interested in this stuff, but I don't want to go so far into the details that it now becomes just an onerous task too. So, you know,
Science is too big to go into the details with everything.
it's a tough gig.
You'll be out in the weeds somewhere. All right. Dan corrected his favorite thing where he meant he guesses his idea of favorite conspiracy theory is the one that he finds most entertaining.
Uh, yeah. Most entertaining. Uh, I mean, it's a little. Yeah, I don't. I don't want to yuck somebody's yum. Uh, but I think there's some.
No,
Uh,
that would be
there's some good appreciation maybe around UFO conspiracy theorists too. I think there's some people who get pretty violent about it, but mostly I think that's also one with like astrology, where there's good fun appreciation of those things. We ourselves hang aliens around our museum and other places here, so I think there's a little bit of fun to be had with that one too.
because
Well, there are
they
serious
yell
science efforts going
the
into
yelled
trying.
comment from the background was, "Don't go there because you'll start stepping on Dan." One of our other volunteers talked about the Fermi paradox.
Which is, there's some real science being done in trying to find extraterrestrial life, which probably more looks like microbes than it does, people walking around who look like us, except they're green and oddly shaped. That it's. Uh, and that doesn't mean that there aren't superior beings out there somewhere, superior intelligence, more advanced, whatever. However, that possibility exists. You can't dismiss it. But the likelihood of what we will find in our existence in the universe is probably more like microbial life.
All right. Uh, Online people, if you have any questions you want to ask, I do ask you get them in. I know by the time they hear that, we'll be into the future already. Any last minute questions out here? So, I do want to thank you, Paul, for another great presentation. I want to thank everyone for joining us not only here on site. Sorry about the weather. Unfortunately, they still won't allow me to have a weather control machine. I think they're far too concerned about how powerful I would get if I had a weather controlled machine or the ability to be in two places at once, which is why they don't allow me to do that. Um, like I said, we do live stream this, so do feel free hit those like and subscribe buttons. It helps us greatly. We are currently fundraising to put up another observatory outside to house our 25-inch telescope. Because let's face it, everyone wants to look through a 25-inch telescope at the sky. And it's but 25-inch telescope is a little too big to set up and take down in one night. So it's got to have its own little house for that. You can find more details about that on our website, uacnj.org. And as things progress, we will post updates on our social media, our Facebook, our Instagram, our Discord server as necessary. So do follow us there. So there was only one last comment from Dan about him actually thinking AI is bad for conspiracy theorists because generally AIs are programmed to present neutral and consensus viewpoints, so they seldom agree with to conspiracy theorists. I've seen some really weird stuff on the internet, Dan. So I have to disagree with you. Then again, I am in some very weird. I fall into some very weird internet, like Wikipedia black holes, where you go from like, I want to look up the spices in curry, and then suddenly you're on how to grow willow for basket weaving. Go figure. And yes, that was an actual progression of wiki searches at one point. Besides the point, since we are done, looks like we are done with questions. Thank you, everyone. Be safe driving home. Do use your headlights when you leave here because we don't need to be running people over. That's just far too much paperwork than we need. And with that, everyone have a great night and clearer skies than we have.
Thanks again, everyone. Good night.